So today it was announced that Splash Mountain at Walt Disney World and Disneyland is closing. This is real, by the way. This isn't a joke, what you're seeing now. I know every concept art we show you on the show now, you think I made up. And I'm starting to believe maybe I did at this point. But this is the concept art. They are actually going to make the U.S. Splash Mountain rides into a Princess and the Frog log flume ride. This is a real thing that's going to happen. Disney claims they were planning it long before the petition. They claim they've been working on it for a year and that they decided on this like last summer. And they decided to tell you 2 weeks after the petition. Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, so this is what's happening. A log flume starring specifically, they've only mentioned Louis and Tiana. And they are not far along with this. They said today they haven't even digitally scanned the ride yet, which I think would be a first step. So we are probably still years away from this, and I mean years. But nonetheless, they have announced that Splash Mountain at some point is closing in both California and Florida, and will be this Princess and the Frog log flume ride.
Where did they all of a sudden find the dollars to do this, right? Like, I mean, they're crying that they can't finish certain things
when they want, right? So when there's a positive PR move to be made, there's money to spend, and then when there's not, like, we just push everything off into oblivion, right? Which is what they're like. They announced today that Tron and Runaway Railway will both be severely delayed because they will continue construction in phases. And what that essentially means is they'll do construction when they have to for the time being. So when things arrive, because you can't delay the arrival of set pieces and things coming from third-party contractors. That's essentially what that means. So it means none of that's going to be on time. But in the midst of that, in the midst of freezing and announcing that they're going to freeze several projects beyond that, they've decided that this is a thing they're going to go through with no strings attached, no delays. This is happening. So after, what, 31 years almost in California and 27, 8 here in Florida, Splash Mountain will be no more. And I have an illustrious panel with me, as you can tell by the Brady Bunch boxes. Joining me, Eric Morton in his brightest shirt. Axel's upset with his arms crossed.
Grumpy.
Yeah, Jessica Figueroa's there. God, no, she's upset too. No, you're very happy. That's why I brought you on today. Nathan Hartman, Nicholas Cicero, Eric Wolf, and Jason Diffendahl. And he apparently had the gum you weren't supposed to eat at the Willy Wonka factory. He's up to
Jason Beauregard.
Jason Beauregard. He's up to the blueberry pie.
I want it.
He's just really sad about Splash Mountain. He turned blue from
The
it.
problem is I've been at theme parks this whole past week, and my sunburn throws off the color correction.
Yeah, I want to set something straight first of all. 2 weeks ago, I think everyone was in agreement that something had to change on Splash Mountain. So the discussion tonight is not about whether or not something needed to be done. The discussion tonight was the right thing done. That's the discussion. Because we did that 2 weeks ago. We talked about, is Splash Mountain offensive? Should it be changed? Those kind of things. I want to focus tonight, because I think we have more than enough to talk about, the fact that they are putting a movie based on Louisiana, and I remind everyone again that there are no mountains in Louisiana.
There's
that
no
New Orleans is also not in the Old West. It is neither of
you're
those.
there.
Mountains in Georgia.
Obviously, Disneyland, you know, Splash Mountain has always been ridiculously close to New Orleans Square and the Haunted Mansion, and I don't know that anyone has an argument. I don't even like that Splash Mountain. My only concern there is the America Sings animatronics, which of course have existed since the 70s and are a Mark Davis creation, and it's real sad to lose them. And they're not necessarily the thing that's been deemed offensive or the thing that anyone was upset about. But I think thematically, a lot of us are upset with the Florida decision, right? Is that where everybody's at?
Yeah, pretty much.
No,
I mean, Nathan, you can go to Universal Orlando if you just want IPs just slapped next to each other.
No, here's my thing. Here's my thing. I think, Jess, you're on board with this, right? Like, Song of the South takes place in the South. Like, it's friggin' Georgia. Like,
but one doesn't
there's
permit
no
the
difference.
other, right? Like,
This
I don't think Splash
means
fit
more
either, but-
here.
What was it? You're low.
Yeah, I'm saying.
The chat's saying
Yeah.
you're low.
Me?
Yeah.
Well, what else is new? Come on. I have it.
Yeah,
all
she's
set up.
always
I don't
low.
know. I don't know. Is this better?
Don't worry, I'll go into fancy settings and make you louder somehow.
We'll give you an
I
overlay.
have it all the way up. I don't know. Is it?
Speak from the diaphragm.
So let me hear, before I scream at all of you, why you
This is
think this works. Why you think this works where it's going.
I think it might be too early to say that it works or doesn't work. I feel like it probably needed to change. A lot of people were uncomfortable with it. I've gone on that ride before, and while it didn't make me necessarily uncomfortable, at least raised my eyebrow. Like, I'm kind of surprised this is still here. So I'm glad, especially for people that were uncomfortable by it, that they're doing something. I am a little uncomfortable with the idea that they sort of just automatically assume that we swing the door the other way. We're going to just shoehorn an IP in there that, for the sake of shoehorning this IP in there. I think Tiana might deserve an original attraction, you know, or like we've discussed, a restaurant or something like that. So to kind of just overlay an existing ride that many people consider offensive with this seems a little bit like a pat on the head and go on your way, and now this will all die down. I don't know. It rings a little disingenuous to me.
Yeah. Also, like, was the best choice today to be like, oh, we've been working on this. We've been, whoa, it's been a year.
Yeah.
We've
Disney
been doing this
does
for a year.
everything
No,
on
this isn't your
time.
idea. This is our idea. No.
Disney does.
No, you guys, no, it was a great idea. Yeah, we had it first. Like, that's my
It's
biggest
yeah,
issue.
it's weird.
Would it have just been, I almost think it would have been a better PR move for them to just say, we listened to what you said and we're going to do it. But instead, in classic Disney,
Yeah.
you know, we're artsy and creative and we come up with great things.
We thought of this.
This is our idea. You guys will love our idea. It's
Or
so
just wait.
different from yours.
Or just wait a
Thomas
year, or 2
Kincaid
years, or
drew
whatever.
our concept art. It's so different.
Or they started the petition, right?
Yeah.
Oh, there's some next level.
You know, I will tell you, in the years I have been around in this community, it has been talked about that Disney most definitely, at several points, floated ideas on forums, you know, and it's certainly been said. People always assumed, like with our stuff, when it was very early, that we were floating ideas around. But when we put stuff out early, it generally was already like greenlit and going. But there is a track record within the community of them testing the water with things. I don't think this is one of those moments. I don't believe they wanted that press in the midst of the Black Lives Matter movement, right? I don't think that was the thing they wanted. They did, however, want to put this announcement out today, so you forget that they canceled the reopening of Disneyland yesterday.
There you go.
Remember that.
So I'll kind of stand by what I said a couple of weeks ago, that we're probably better off with it not being themed to Splash Mountain. But do I necessarily think people are linking the ride itself to being racist? I don't think so. I don't think there was a real outcry for that. The movie, obviously, yes, but I don't think people really connected it. But nonetheless, it's the same. Like I said, I said this a couple of weeks ago. I said we're probably better off without the redhead, being sold into slavery on pirates. And I think we're better off without this. Now, are we better off with what replaced that? No, I know you're not going to agree with that, and I don't agree with that either. But so hopefully they do a good job replacing this.
Like, this art concerns me greatly.
yeah.
Can we talk about this? And the press release concerns me greatly either. Because
Yeah.
there is no mention of any other characters in this press release. It is only Louis and Tiana. And that means maybe we only have money for 2 animatronics, is what that means. I don't know. The only thing I can think of that would make me happy, honestly, what would make me happy is if literally you just have new scenes with Tiana and Lewis everywhere that the Brers were, and then you just keep all the other animals. I would love that. It won't make sense, but I'd be happy.
Brer Bear is like a perfect size to just.
Brer Bear's gonna get
Lewis.
reskinned as Lewis,
Like,
right?
it's
I
just
mean, like
easy.
that's just like we knew Pete the Prospector was gonna become Big Al was gonna become Pete the Prospector, right? It's all the same shape.
Yeah, it's just perfect there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have like.
All right, so here's my issue with this.
Here goes.
Purple,
And
let
there's a
it go.
couple things. Yes. Let me go before I turn into a blueberry. There's a couple of issues I have with this, and part of this was mentioned by several people on Twitter today, and that is that, sure, Song of the South is a racist movie. I don't think anybody can argue about that. Are the characters racist?
Yes.
I don't
Yes.
know. Maybe they
Heard them
are.
speak.
Well, their language is racist, but the characters themselves, like innately,
No,
their
but
soul,
their
no,
voices are
internally.
absolutely black stereotypes.
Oh.
of the
Is that
South.
fair?
absolutely.
Racist
I agree.
in his soul.
I agree. I
Yeah.
don't know that the characters do racist things. They just sound racist.
That's still bad.
Oh, it's still bad. I agree.
It's
I
something
know.
that we said
Butters
last time.
is pissed. Butters like,
Butters is
just
very
turn this
upset.
show off.
Here's the other thing.
Just a bunch
that,
of white guys yelling about Splash Mountain.
Here's the other thing that was mentioned on Twitter today, and I think is a valid perspective, is that a lot of the stories of Brer Rabbit and Brer Bear and the group of them, those are African folklore. They're not racist stories. They're just told in a racist way. And so
Written by a
These
white
might be the
writer.
worst points
You're not making
ever
this
made
better.
Like,
on
we need
any
to put
show
a
we've
stop
ever
to
produced,
this.
which
The people
we've
in the chat
produced a
don't
lot
have
of
enough time as
shows.
it is.
I mean,
What?
these are stories that were handed down orally from generation to generation.
Yes, and then they were stolen by a white writer in the middle of the
Right.
Confederacy.
That's what's the
Like, what?
problem. I agree. That's absolutely the problem.
And then
I
it was
think
made
it would
into
be
movie,
a
it was made into a ride.
I think it would be a valuable thing to keep an authentic version of these African folklore stories in public consciousness, because it's a historical thing that we're going to lose, and Splash Mountain's not the
That's
right
fine.
way to do that. But I don't know. I think people lose a bit of their heritage when we completely get rid of things that are innocent stories because they've been essentially bastardized into a racist movie. That's my point.
I feel like now you're talking about the movie and not the ride, but
Well,
You mean the movie
not
it's
a fan
based
of the
on?
movie.
can't separate the
bottom line
movie
is
from the ride. That's the
thing that
problem.
they
was-
could easily separate the movie from the ride.
Yeah.
No one knows that
But-
the ride is connected to the movie.
Well, they
part
would
of the
have to.
main
They would, but
problem.
they would have to redo the voices of all the characters.
And they could have. I think they very well could have. But I
They
think
could.
at this point, someone was like, we need to just wash our hands of this. And I don't even have a problem with that. My problem
Well, and that's
is the thematic
that was my
choice
point, that the characters aren't innately racist characters. They come from traditional African folklore. The stories are told in a racist way with racist voices. The stories themselves, the characters themselves, can be retained and the voices changed to tell the characters' stories in a way that's not racist. That could be done. It's obviously not the decision they made, but it could be done.
Here's the thing, and Nick brought up the redhead thing, so I'm going to go off on that as usual. There's a big difference.
Everyone sit back.
I think there is a large difference between 1967 and 1992. Those
Yeah.
are very different times, right? The fact that in 1992 those voices were recorded, and it was decided that was okay, is jarring.
Yeah.
Scary.
Yeah.
The fact that there was an auction scene of women in a pirate ride developed in 1967 is not jarring. I don't think, I think it was still not, no one was offended still, I think, for many years after 67. I think there's likely people who in 1992 were offended by Splash Mountain. I think there's a difference there. I love Splash Mountain. I love those characters. I didn't grow up with the idea that they were racist in any way. I didn't see it, but that's not my experience. So, I feel okay telling people that I love those characters because that's not how I see them. It's not how they are to me. That doesn't mean they shouldn't be removed because people are offended by them. Again, I will tell you again, my problem is not that they're getting rid of Splash Mountain. My problem is that they're shoehorning an IP in as an easy answer instead of thinking of something creative and interesting to do.
But that's the least of the problems, though. The big problem was Splash Mountain. That was a big glaring problem in the middle of Frontierland.
This art form is what all of you do every time there's a topic like this. It is their job to come up with a thoughtful and meaningful way to fix problems, right? That's what Disney has done in the theme park industry since 1955, is to find creative ways to solve, problems of whatever problems their guests are having. And so shoehorning in, well, we have one black-led movie, let's jam that in. We'll convince everyone we're not racist by having that one movie. And that's the one movie we'll use whenever we get in a jam like this.
They could do anything. They could create something new if they wanted to. I mean, I agree with Tom that
they did sit on the movie
there is
for
a
like
problem
10
with
years.
that.
I get that.
It's like y'all are on crazy pills. It's 2020. Disney doesn't do anything if they can't make money off of it. It's the whole point.
But the question is,
on everything
Splash Mountain doesn't sell merch.
But it's funny because
Princess and the Frog came out. Princess and the Frog came out 10 years ago. Are you telling me that they think they're going to make money from this overlay now, and they wouldn't in 2010?
Princess and the Frog doesn't even make any money.
It doesn't make money.
Like merch or anything like that.
I think
so for them to even make a ride.
It's the reason they did nothing with it in the beginning.
Came out.
Right.
When people who were 8 when it came out, they're 18 now. They can pay and come to the parks. I think that's part of it.
We need to get
Disney
Jason to the juicing room. Is he done?
I'm done.
Disney's basically profited.
Coming from, especially the first time we did Splash Mountain, and that was in Disneyland, coming from Europe, like a lot of other tourists, we had no idea. Because first of all, the movie hasn't been out since the longest time. You come in, you do the ride, and everybody who's not American has no clue whatsoever what's going on. So that's the first thing.
Yeah.
My second thing is Disney coming out and saying like, oh, you know what? We've been thinking about doing that a year ago. Like, what was it that put you to it to start thinking about it a year ago? And don't go inventing anything, because if you don't like it, if you think it's racist, you don't bring out Park Pals, you don't bring out Funko,
you're right.
and you don't make money off of things that you think are racist.
Last year, they had all the 30th anniversary merchandise
So
last year,
that's
Yep.
something idiotic, because if you can still get the people to pay for it and bring out merchandise, then you're in the wrong in the very first place.
Clearly, yeah, you're right. It's only when it fits them. So if they really actually thought people were offended years ago, then we wouldn't have had all the merchandise we've had in the last calendar year.
No, not at all.
We've had stuff this year released.
Yeah, there isn't any anymore. It's all bought.
It's all bought.
Yeah. That's a valid point.
Disney's been profiting and perpetuating white supremacy for centuries. Like, well, okay, maybe not
Centuries.
centuries. I'm
They've been
sorry,
around for
decades. I don't know.
Yep.
It feels like, I don't know, but like
Since
it has
before the
power
company
of
was founded.
Just get
It
closer
has
to
the
your
power.
mic.
It has the.
We still can't hear you.
I'm like in it, bro. I'm like
Eat it.
Closer.
Wow. I don't think that mic is
Here, I'll see if I can help a little more.
This is a family show.
Eat
There we
it.
go.
Oh,
Go ahead.
That's better.
So
yeah.
they've perpetuated this stuff for years, and they came to like this, like they hit a wall They realize we need to make a decision. Like Tom said, they are just deciding to shoehorn something to satisfy people. But at the same time,
this or
I
a
don't know.
Wrinkle
Like,
in Time. They had very few choices.
stop. No, but I don't know. Like it baffles me that it would baffle. Like, say if it just stops at this, I'd be still pretty pissed because they'd be like, well, our job is done. We are redoing this attraction, Princess and the Frog. I like Bob Chapek checks off the paper. Good.
No, the merchandise
exactly
sales are
what's
probably
gonna
isn't the
probably
case.
upset, too.
Of course, I'm really glad that like they have like actual Black women as Imagineers heading the program, like the project. But
What were they going to do? Roll out a white guy? I mean, that wasn't going to work, right?
well,
I mean,
that's what I'm kind of like.
Do that in the movie.
I get it that Bob Weiss and Tony Baxter, they had to sprinkle those in, but that's also kind of sad,
Well, Tony, you
that
have
like
to,
people
'cause
don't
Splash is
people
his
don't.
baby. No.
I know, but like people still seek that as like validity, to validate this move. It's like, oh, okay, we have the blessing of the white Imagineer, we're good. There's a lot of social cultural things to this, and generally, I'm really happy. I think Splash Mountain is just overrated and boring at this point. I'm excited to see Princess and the Frog. Yeah.
Animatronics are boring and overrated. Put in the
No.
screen,
I said it-
stickers,
No,
please.
that's what I'm just saying.
Screens,
No.
let's do it.
Because
There's
I
no
love
way you're getting
animatronics.
screens. There's no way.
How much
There's
do
no
you
way.
want to
There's-
bet?
I mean,
Sure.
Get what?
Yeah,
You
Nathan.
can't do
The
it.
question is, are we losing animatronics?
Yes.
If we're losing
That- I don't
animatronics,
think so.
then I'm going to be mad.
We are losing animatronics.
I don't care
There's
if
no
they
way we're
replace
not.
them with screens or not.
The dog
If there
with
are
the
less
cowboy hat is
animatronics in the
not
new
staying.
version, if
Although,
there
who
are
knows?
less
The ride
animatronics
doesn't
in
make
the new
sense to
version,
begin with. It's a mountain in Louisiana.
it's like,
You can have dogs singing
It's
crocodiles.
not a mountain, it's a tree-
you
it's
know,
a tree
bring
now.
in the goose droids from Star Tours. Whatever we got, we throw it in.
The Newsboy will be available
Harold, the
from,
old Harold, the Yeti's going to be in there.
the Spaceship Earth Newsboy will be available soon.
Picture Newsboy, the newspaper.
But I don't get how Disney can say that it has nothing to do with the whole thing that recently happened.
Yeah.
If they're going to say, like, now at the forefront, we're going to put a Black female, which she's still very talented, but Disney's way of thinking is just a spoonful of sugar with the medicine, go down, and now you will
But it's
all
a start,
understand.
though. I don't know.
That's like not, it's not the right time to do so. And if they would have done it, and if it was the right time, they have to admit it and say, like, there was something wrong, and we listened to the people.
No, but
and
they
that's
never
what we're
admit
doing.
they're wrong, and I know.
I would have loved that. Yeah.
We've had our
Yep.
experiences with this company, right? They never admit they're wrong, whether it's this situation, or you're trying to book a park pass, or you're telling people that they're going to close things they like. They don't.
Yeah.
They're not honest. They're never honest. Never going to be honest, right?
That's always the problem. If it's just like a reactionary thing, they're just like,
Yeah.
then there's no,
It
you,
is
you
reactionary,
strip
but
it
they
of the
couldn't even admit
context.
that. They couldn't admit
Yeah,
Right.
it could have been very easy for them
You
to
then
just
miss,
go just.
go for it.
No.
Oh, I'm just saying you miss a really important lesson when you strip it of context and you just like, nope, never happened.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Like I was gonna say, they could have just easily just brought out and showed us the concept art and just been like, this is what we're working on. But then they had to attach her, and they had to attach these Imagineers to the project, and it's like, you didn't have to do that right now. Like by doing that, like what you just said, by doing that, it's like it's showing them like, oh, like hey, see what we're doing?
We have
like,
black employees, I promise.
yeah, exactly.
But I wouldn't let that still, even though it's a really important thing, like moving forward, I want to see this keep happening, I want Imagineering to put out how many black people they have on the team, how many Hispanic people they have on the team.
There's not many, which is why
Like,
they don't.
There's not
ever
many.
seen
Every
those
time they
project
release
team
like a
pictures?
photo,
They're all white.
yeah, it's super
Yeah, but
white,
do you
and
want
just
that
no
for-
flavor.
Do you want it for the
But-
Imagineering teams, or do you want
That,
that
well, really
to
for everything,
continue
but
throughout the rides that are still there? Because racist stereotypes, they go hand in hand. Next up, Jungle
Yeah.
Cruise. Next up,
That's fine though. I don't know.
No,
Because
not small.
If there's anything full of stereotypes, it's freaking Small World.
That's true.
And it
Tiki
doesn't
rooms
even
go
matter
down.
what country you come from. That's stereotyping your country, whether you like it or not. Jungle Cruise, especially if we go on this swing, and although everybody is not okay with what's happening and what's happened, but some things will just always hurt more than the other. Just like it was a red hat that disappeared, people got mad. If they gonna change the Jungle Cruise, people will get mad.
Yeah.
Will it be for the better? Is there something wrong? Yes, of course, you can see that. Was the red hat wrong? In some kind of way, it was wrong. But does it need to change? Will that change what's happening in the world? Could Disney do other things to change what's happening?
There's a big difference between like stereotypes and representation, though. I do like this whole trend. If this is what this is, it's, you know, I want to see people represented in the parks and the attractions and stuff that look like me or represent my heritage. You know, this is kind of what this is about. You know, there's now an attraction that represents this whole culture, and people are going to really appreciate that. Like, it's really emotionally, it's like a whirlwind, because you're like, yes, finally, you know, like, I don't relate to, you know, a random bear. I want to relate to this hardworking girl.
Yeah, and
you know?
it sucks, and like I said last time that we spoke about this on the show, it just sucks that Disney has not given the black community another person, another character, another movie.
Yeah. No, because
So-
the first one didn't succeed, and so because they only see dollar signs, it was
Correct.
like, well, not again.
So it sucks that, like, yeah, like the community is grabbing onto this property,
Yeah.
and it doesn't matter if it doesn't fit or this and that. It's just like, yeah, we want to be represented, and
Yeah.
you're not giving us something.
It's the
so
only one
we
there
want
is.
This.
Yeah.
It's the only
I
one.
want
Yeah.
it.
It doesn't
I'm
make it the
down.
right choice, though, either. You could certainly have done a
Yes.
joint announcement. You certainly could have come up with something that made sense where it was going, and then also at the same time been like, here's also a print. Don't worry, we will also address the lack of inclusion in the parks, and here's a separate Princess and the Frog attraction or a Princess and the Frog restaurant, because you know it's a thing that's actually in the movie. It makes a lot of sense. You know, here are things that make sense for this movie or for this franchise.
Yeah.
To represent them in the parks, and here they are in a place that makes sense for them to be, not a mountain in Louisiana.
It's not a mountain
It's not
anymore.
going to be a mountain,
It's
though.
gonna be a
How is
tree.
it not a? Are they pushing it into the ground? Like what?
No, they're
Well, you gotta dig a little
Putting a
deeper,
tree
yeah.
on top of a
Levels.
mountain doesn't make it not a mountain. Do you understand that concept?
I
make
also
sense?
know that there is a very small railroad next door, and that railroad is far too small. That mining company seems to not be making any money, and there's a castle next
That is
door.
an idiotic.
So I'm not
point. That is
Thank you. It's a
sure.
It is. It is a stupid point. It's
I
a mountain.
disagree.
You are. All of you want to throw away anything that matters in this realm, and you're going to end up with garbage. And you know what? I'll be in Tokyo having a good time, and you can have all this screen-based junk that no one cares
You
about.
have-
no one
you
puts
have
any
no
heart
proof it's
into.
screen-based.
Everything's a PR
You have no proof
move
it's gonna be
or a
mad.
money move, and nothing's for actual guest enjoyment. You can have all
I
of
disagree.
that, and I wish you the best with it.
something I
Bad
really
time to point out
appreciate
there's
about
no
this
mountains
new
in space.
attraction.
The moon has craters.
Thank you.
That is completely
It's clearly a
different.
space station.
It's a different thing.
That's different.
It's
No.
a space station. There's no space station.
Hypothetical.
When have you ever
Here's
seen
a
space station
hypothetical,
like that?
and I want to hear everyone's opinion on this. They do this overlay. They do it cheaply, as Bob Chapek is wont to do. They rip out animatronics and they put screens in, and everyone thinks the ride is garbage.
Right.
What's going to happen?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Well, I knew
Everyone
it's not
will
was any
just-
better
Everyone will
before.
clap and cheer as they put Coco over the Grand Fiesta Tour with the same effort.
Yeah, nothing.
We'll all clap and cheer. And
I mean,
raise
people
the
aren't gonna
Disney
be
Disney
pissed.
Clap.
for its creativity and masterfulness.
Are are people going to be pissed that they took a ride that many people enjoyed because of its plethora of animatronics and show scenes, and they ripped all that out and turned it into garbage? Are people going to be pissed? No one's going to be pissed.
Of course people are going to be mad. What I don't understand is this desire to start. You're all
no, I know that. Line, but what I'm saying, Jessica, is that
the race is going to be bad. Like I just feel like there's so much of this, like it's already terrible, and then you go in and you have this self-fulfilling prophecy of like they moved a thing. How dare they?
3 years. It is not a self-fulfilling prophecy. If I'm handed garbage for 3 years, I'm going to expect garbage from you. That's
right,
the way
and that's my point, Jessica.
Up to Pandora,
is that
everything was fine.
I'm listening, Jason. I'm listening.
Land. Yeah, I'm going to expect cheap garbage from you.
Right.
Right. So my point, Jessica, is that people have an issue with the ride as it is. I get it. That's fine. I'm all for them changing it. If they change it and do it really cheaply, then aren't the people who wanted them to change it to begin with going to be pissed that they did a crappy job with it? Or are they going to be happy that at least it's changed? That's my question.
Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't. The people that want it to be changed, they would be happy to go on that ride with no characters whatsoever, just with some.
But would they?
It does not. It doesn't. This whole petition was never like, we don't like Splash Mountain, the ride. No, we don't like the story behind, we don't like the characters. That's why we want it to change. So, are they going to complain? Like, no, it's still a flume ride. You go down, you get wet, that's it, you turn, you go back home.
But you lose all the animatronics. If you lose all the animatronics,
no one
if you
cares.
lose all the
cares about
animatronics,
storytelling.
Half of those animatronics.
I think it depends on like the
functional.
community that you're talking about.
All irrelevant. It's all just about Instagram photos now.
Like our community that's into animatronics, that's into all this, that's into wanting Disney to make things better and make things, actually make sense. Yeah, we're gonna be pissed.
Right.
But everyone else is gonna be pissed.
We want a quality attraction.
Correct.
You're gonna tell
I would
me
love
Splash
to have
Mountain.
a quality attraction that's not racist. I would happily give up Splash Mountain.
If it was a quality attraction,
I would happily give out Splash Mountain to have a quality attraction that's not racist. Would I happily give up Splash Mountain to have a garbage attraction that's not racist? That's the trade-off.
We now have the
They desperately need to
Well,
that whole ride has needed an overhaul for years now.
Well, it has, because a lot of things
It's been on our
work.
maintenance list for how long? Like,
absolutely.
You can't tell me it's like a beep like this work a while.
You don't have
like,
you have no proof that they're going to use screens.
So
until you do, you can't use that as
Nathan, I will bet you $1,000.
Let me show you.
Nathan, I will bet you $1,000.
Tell me it's how good it's.
I will bet you $1,000 that we will have less animatronics after this overlay than there is right now in there.
One Tiana,
$1,000.
One Lewis. Enjoy.
Okay,
I will take a bet of there will be animatronics. That's a bet I will win easy. If the bet is
there will be what?
There's only going to be 2 animatronics in a 10-minute ride. Oh well. I don't know.
I'm just saying there's going to be less than there are now. Just the sheer number of animatronics.
There has to be.
So then the
There's
problem
going to be
is
less.
just so then the problem is just redoing the attraction. So otherwise, let's say like they didn't touch it. They just left it there for the next 10, 20 years. They're going to have to redo it anyway.
Coming up with something creative and sensible to put in the place of it.
What would have been creative and sensible?
A million other Western-related things.
Like what?
Like the Western
What's
River
interesting
Expedition, Pecos Bill. I don't know, the Lone Ranger.
Pecos Bill.
These things. They sell as much merchandise as Princess and the Frog.
That's the problem. See, my issue.
I think that's a little.
My issue is that
I wouldn't have mind a Zorro one, but still, that's all like super like. Lame.
My issue is that they took 11 years.
Super lame.
Why did it take them 11 years to come up with an attraction based on a Princess and the Frog?
deliver fireworks up a waterfall, and then we're going to come down the
guess
waterfall,
maybe-
and they're all going to be on the same riverboat. The two figures on the
took
same
them-
riverboat that once had 40 figures.
Fine.
Maybe we'll get to eat on the
Lone
log
Ranger
flume.
Space
Maybe it will
Mountain,
be a
whatever.
restaurant log flume. That would be fantastic.
I mean,
Here's the thing. Here's the
That's
thing.
what's in
Thematically,
Tokyo.
Number one, Ratatouille makes a bad ride. It makes a great restaurant because you know what? It's mostly about food. It's a crazy. I know it's a crazy concept, but movies about people opening restaurants probably should be restaurants. I
But
know
then
it's
there's the
a
issue with,
nuts
like-
idea.
So in the chat of this
don't mind an
afternoon's
attraction.
live, somebody wrote like, "Don't judge too early. We all did with the Hollywood Tower Hotel, and now everybody
Mission
loves
Breakout, yeah.
Mission
Mission
Breakout."
Breakout
But
is
that was again
excellent.
still before the Chapek administration, right? Like, everything
That's
bad
true.
starts
That
from Toy
wasn't
Story
cheapened
Land,
out.
right? That's the
I am
time.
scared it'll
That's
be
where the
cheap.
timeline skews, as Doc Brown would say. That's when we
Guardians,
enter the darkest
Guardians was
timeline
not a
But
cheap overlay.
in
Don't you
2018.
don't you think that Disney
Guardians
now
really was
has,
not a cheap overlay.
No, it wasn't. They spent the money.
They
on
spent
Yeah,
a fair
but-
amount of money on that.
Don't you think Disney
So we need
now
Joe Rody on this project.
has
Oh yeah.
given themselves the obligation to have like this representation in it, and they will not be getting away with one Tiana?
I hope so.
Animatronic?
I would love to eat my words.
They,
would
I mean, they can't say like, "Oh yes, we're gonna represent a culture in this ride," and there you go. At the end, you're gonna see like Tiana going.
But in a world
That's it.
where
No.
12 animatronics were cut from the Guardians roller coaster, how am I supposed to believe that you're going to spend that money here? Like, how am I supposed to believe?
Hey, they were
Right.
cut from Spaceship Earth as well. We've seen that on the.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, look,
It might be like
the thing
siphoning money from other projects at this point.
yeah, and concept art is free basically for Disney. They
sure
didn't,
think
they haven't
Especially
spent a
that
dime.
one.
Yeah, they haven't spent a dime yet, and they don't have
They just
to
bought a
for
Thomas Kincaid.
years. Yeah, so
Hey, yo, Thomas.
so that's the thing is like you can talk about budgets and we can talk about budgets and stuff, but this isn't a budget that's going to be on their like fiscal radar for a while. So
Nothing's going to be on their
I think
fiscal
that-
radar. For
Yeah.
no,
In or out.
The big minus
just the
signs
start.
are
Right
on
now,
their
their
fiscal
entire
radar.
fiscal year is my 2 visits to Sanaa. Well, this quarter, Tom Corliss bought this much bread service. So you see we're on the upward trend. He did use tables
they
in
always have-
Wonderland, though, so we did see a 20% decrease in guest spending.
I mean,
you eat
don't,
enough
don't go
bread there
blaming
that they
Disney
already
and
have
budget
that like
if
line item. So.
don't go blaming Disney and budget if Dr. Facilier looks like the Phoenicians. That's all that I'm saying.
He's pounding Reed's flat. I mean,
Oh, we found some other animatronics. Like, bring them in.
all his weird spirit guys are going to be stickers. They're going to be friends with the sticky side.
Well, he
Projecting,
should be a
projecting.
projection.
Was
Like
Facilier.
we talked about it.
The
We
shadow.
talked about it earlier. Like if this is a continuation, he should be a spirit.
dead.
Like he's not going to be an animatronic.
He's going to be
Well,
a
he's on the other
projected
side.
ghost. That's how they're going to get away with it.
Yeah, so
Him
it's-
and the ghost of Ray, they're going to fight. Ghost fight on the screen.
Now I'm
the
excited. I'm
storyline.
very
You're gonna
excited.
follow-
Like a Spaceship Earth 08 finale, they're just going to board up the old ride and put screens over it. It's like the whole old ride is behind it. You can hear like the little bunny sweeping behind the screen.
Actually, I'm kind of curious for like a vote by hand. Like, if you would, who would say that in this panel that they're excited? Like, you don't have to be like, you know.
I'm excited. I don't know why
I'm
everyone's like
excited to see
afraid
what
to
they
say that
do.
they're excited about
I'm
this project.
Really, but it's not.
What's the
this isn't
stigma
the
with this
right thing.
project?
So
I'm excited
I don't
for
know what
any
it is,
new
honestly,
attraction.
like-
Like, I'm excited for any new attraction. The
But so
problem
this
is that
pushback
their
for
track
anything
record
else?
of late hasn't been great.
Sure.
It's like, who's
Okay,
excited
well-
for a new Disney movie? You're all excited,
If the
and
year
then
was 2009,
Atlantis comes
I
out.
might actually be excited.
Exactly. Because they're doing
It
it
was like done when the
to
movie
support
was
an
coming
IP
out.
that's
Sure.
right. It just came out. I can't.
They're
If this
replacing
was
a
on
bunch
the
of stuff in.
if this was on the
So it
drawing
was okay
board
to be racist
for
'cause
this
they had to
long,
fix a bunch of other stuff in 2009.
They're
DCA was a
fixing
mess.
a bunch of stuff.
We'll be not racist later, guys. We gotta get this Malaburritos out of here.
They're fixing a bunch of stuff and possibly gutting a bunch of scenes from like Spaceship Earth soon, and there isn't nearly as much outrage, like emotional outrage.
There's emotional outrage
over
when
the
they
same
do that.
announcement.
When they got it.
there's going to be
There's-
emotional
there
outrage
is
when they
certainly-
do
I agree.
gut
Yeah, well-
Spaceship Earth.
But I
I
agree
wish
with
they'd
Jess.
take
I
the
think
whole
there is
Spaceship Earth budget and spend it on this project.
Well, I think there's a cultural anchor to this ride that is affecting people's feelings on it. I'm saying, not even saying people in this
Because
panel,
it's a
but I'm just
great
saying,
attraction. Of course,
It's
people are
not.
And that's-
attached to it.
yeah.
It's a great
Yeah.
attraction. If you expect us to not be attached to it?
no,
Wait,
I'm
are you
just
talking
saying
about
that I
that or
think
the
there's more
negative?
like. I'm talking about both. I think that's the thing that's such a struggle for people is
Oh,
like
people shouldn't
Spaceship
be
Earth.
stuck to the fact that the ride isn't racist, because it is. You know,
Right.
I agree with people on that, but I think people are attached. Right, Tony Baxter and Walt Disney both said something effective. If you're going to remove something, whatever you replace with has to be better. And I don't
Right.
believe in them anymore. After Runaway Railway and Toy Story Land and Pixar Pier and Ant-Man and the Wasp Nano Battle and Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run and all of that, I don't believe in them anymore. I don't think they can do it with their management. I think only the couple of guys who are like, I'm going to go work for the OLC people because they let us do cool things. Those are the only people in that entire division that do anything of meaning anymore. The rest of them are so tied by budgets and creative shackles that are put on them that no one gets to do anything of value anymore. Everything is so overproduced.
It's all value
budget cut
engineered.
and junky and ordered through a third-party manufacturer that they just can't do anything right to save their lives at this point. That's where I am the last 3 years with them. And so the fact that they're going to go into another attraction that people love and is beloved and do an overlay, no, I don't have faith in them.
Yeah, I'm personally
But
just
it's gonna
tired
just
of
keep
the
happening.
budget cuts. It's like everything that you budget has always gotten a budget cut. It's like, why don't you just stop over budgeting for things?
Or
Like, it's just so
do
weird.
less things and spend money on the things you're actually doing.
Yeah, like it's just such a weird
Sure.
concept of
Instead
like,
of
oh,
instead of doing 50 things at Epcot, why don't you build 2 new things that people
Yeah,
want to
like-
see? How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we can
the
get them
problem.
done at a decent schedule.
I don't know.
Yeah.
In this whole timeline of getting things done, we know that it will still be the old Splash Mountain when the parks reopen. Maybe not when Disneyland
Right.
reopens, but at least when Walt Disney World reopens. Is it okay? And that's like just a question. Is it okay for Disney to keep the ride open? Because basically they are admitting, guys, this is racist. We're going to change it.
No, they're not though.
They
But
haven't
the
said
whole
anything.
point.
you'll
That's
be
the
still
thing.
That's
able
the
to
whole
ride
point.
it when the park open again. So
Yeah, they-
is
they've
that
said
okay?
it's
Shouldn't they
being
say like,
more
guys, this is
inclusive,
wrong.
but
We're
they've not
closing
said
it
that it's
right
racist.
away.
Also,
We're making
am I
something
a bad
new.
person for wanting to go like ride it a bunch
No.
before it closes? Like, I
No.
don't understand.
Actually, you
Yeah,
have an
I can
absolutely
respect that,
valid
that's fine.
point. But the problem is, if Disney admitted the reason that they're changing it is because it's a racist attraction, then they would have to shut it down. They would have to not reopen it.
Exactly.
But by saying, "Oh, we've been working on this for a year now, and it's just complete coincidence that we've announced it now, a week or two after all these protests have been happening related to racism." That's just a coincidence.
Yeah.
That's
Well, they'd also have to
that's
explain
why
they
they're
didn't
not admitting
do this
that
earlier.
that's the reason the announcement happened now.
So the people that are
Because if
happy
they
for the
admitted
cause
it was racist,
basically
Right.
have to see
If
that
they-
Disney is just being the biggest hypocrite around. Because
Absolutely.
if you would
Their
support the
PR
cause, you close the
Yeah.
ride, you put a wall with a gator on it saying, we're coming back soon. That's
Well, with
it.
the
Their
Gator.
PR spin, their
With
PR
a trumpet.
spin on
The
all of
problem
this.
is not that they're a corporation.
I mean, they're a company. Why wouldn't they do
Here's the
that?
thing.
You know,
The
like.
problem is not that they're a corporation. You can be a big, mean, evil corporation. Ask Comcast. They're very good at it. They still run theme parks and people like them. But Disney, at the same time, while they're being evil and furloughing all their employees and not caring about their well-being and all of these things, at the same time, they'll tell you how much they care about their employees, how they have a rich history of creativity and innovation and all these things. And at the same time, they'll also slap a decal on a pier and tell you it's a new land. So that's the problem.
There's
is
no one
don't lie
arguing
to
that
my
Disney's, like,
face, right? I mean,
disingenuous.
that's the
At
least
the same time-
Comcast at no point
Right.
lies to your face, right? Just
No.
do what they do. Just do
No, it is what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
At the
Y'all
same
like
time,
trolls?
Disney
Here's
says
trolls.
there's no bugs
be
in
there
our
between 12
software,
and
there's
2.
no
it. Yeah,
bugs
we're
in our
closing Twister. It's
website.
going to be Jimmy Fallon. Deal with it. I don't care.
Anyway, I'm really excited that they're gonna put Tiana in the form of a human being and a black woman instead of a frog for the most of the ride, like
Yeah,
they
let's
did
hope.
with the movie. Stop. No, I mean that's what
And
I'm
beignets.
basing that on the concept art, and the concept art is only they're saying the concept art
Well,
is just
there
Walt
isn't a
Disney
budget
World,
to do
so
a
it
frog
might.
in addition to a human.
Or
Only
don't
two
blame Disney that the
animatronics.
frog looks like a rabbit going.
Because it's like technically that Tiana's outside. Inside, she could be a frog the
know.
whole time.
I don't care what happens, honestly. Just
The
give
concept
me
art
my
is so
goddamn
cool.
bear
They're
tail.
already the frogs are already in
Send,
there.
mail it
You
to
can buy
me.
it now.
I just want my bear tail. Just give it to me,
All right.
and I will walk away.
Mail the tail. Mail
Tom,
the
it's almost
tail.
past my bedtime. We gotta wrap this
Hashtag
up.
mail the
the tail.
tail.
We gotta wrap this up, Tom. It's past my bedtime now.
Is it 9
And
already?
the last point I want to make is I love The Princess and the Frog. I have fond memories of the movie. We were one of the first people to see it. We went to the Ziegfeld in New York. We bought very expensive tickets. We were the first people to see it. Loved the movie so much. We bought like big framed sheet music signed by who's it signed by?
Randy Newman.
Randy Newman and Alan. I think Menken worked on the music too, and it's signed
Yes.
by
Yeah.
both of them. And it's hanging in my house in New York. I love them. It's a great memory.
It's a great
I have
movie. Better music than all of the music that
fantastic
Splash
music,
Mountain currently
a very
has.
underrated movie that should have financially done much better. I don't disagree with that. I disagree with the fact that it's being slapped into Frontierland. It doesn't belong there. It
I'm
makes no sense.
okay with that.
It's a land with a mining company and singing bears, and it's all this.
So
old
why
rustic,
not a
old
giant
rustic
tree
West stop, old rustic Western stuff and motifs, and then suddenly there's going to be a Louisiana bayou in between all of that? No, it doesn't
Why
work.
not? That
You
area-
can't
that
put
area
a
is
boat
super
up
lush
in a tree on
anyway.
top of a mountain. None of this makes any sense.
It's
I'm
not a
sorry.
mountain anymore.
It's a bad concept. I don't care
Then-
what the reasoning is. If you have to get rid of something because people are offended, come up with a creative way to do it. And if you're going to tell me that redhead replacement scene is good, there's something wrong with you. I'm not going to argue whether or not that scene should have gone, but you're going to tell me anyone on earth is ever going to buy a shirt with 10 for a hen or quit your clucking or any of that on it?
Quit your clock.
Just because you have to get rid of something is not a free pass to deliver people garbage. It's not a free pass to give them something not creative and not your best work. That's the bottom line.
We talked about it on the live when we did the live today about the reaction. It's like, was this news for Disneyland? Since they were working on it for so long, apparently for a year, was this news for Disneyland? And then with everything happening, they're like,
just wrote
well,
it
you know
too.
what? Maybe we should just get rid of both of them and forget about it. You know?
Yeah.
Because yeah, like I agree,
But
I'm
it makes more
excited
sense
for
in
it, but I do
Disneyland.
agree it just doesn't fit for us. It fits for them. It just doesn't fit for us.
Yeah. I'm very sad about the America Sings out.
Whatever, bro. Just buy all the
company doesn't have a good history
animatronics.
of
Be done with it.
keeping its artifacts either. So,
Yeah.
very concerned.
They'll keep one, if anything.
They'll pick out like 2 they like, right?
Yeah.
And the rest will be
Yeah.
junked for parts.
For D23.
as usual.
Or will get stolen.
I'm gonna walk into the office and there's just gonna be like a goose.
Oh, I will buy as many as they
company.
let me buy. Like that'll be our studio audience from now on. It's just
I don't see the buzz with stolen animatronics.
Any other points anyone wants to?
I think it's okay. I think
I
in
have
the end, it's
one
okay
more.
to be sad. You know, like people. I don't
Thank you
want to
for
like
giving
push
me
people to think
okay.
that they can't be sad. No, but
No.
it's true. Like I think some people feel like there's this odd feeling of like, well, I'm disappointed and I'm sad, and they think I hope that's okay culturally for me to be that way. And it absolutely is. It's a ride that means a lot to a lot of people, and I think it's okay to acknowledge those feelings and treat people with respect towards those feelings. I don't think people like, oh, I'm really gonna miss Splash Mountain because of the racism. Like that's not why people liked it in the first place. So, like, it's totally fine for people to grieve, and you know, that I just encourage that. Like, if people can do that, then hopefully they will have grieved through that process and be more open to hopefully something good to come. We don't know, but hopefully.
I don't want to get this discussion open again, but one of my first memories in Disneyland Paris was the band playing Zippity Doo Dah. Can we all say that that's still a song that is like played a
That's a whole
lot
different bag of worms.
in the Disney community? Is that going to go that same way?
Next week.
Yeah.
Next week.
Next week we'll spend an hour.
I
on
grew up
Zippity
on the
There you go.
Show. All right.
I grew up on the sing-along song, like
Yeah.
sing-along VHS called Zippity Doo Dah that
Yep.
had like the full clip from Song of the South, and I know all of the songs. They're great songs. I get it. I just don't get why everyone's digging in their heels. That's
Burn
it.
I
that
don't
VHS.
understand why. Here's the thing.
will-
I'm not even mad at people who are excited that they're getting a Princess and the Frog ride. I'm mad at the people who are then like, I don't care that it doesn't fit there. That's all my problem. My problem is not that people are excited for a Princess and the Frog ride. It's that people are willing to accept it under any circumstance. That's really
Right.
my issue.
In the end, we'll always have the Splash Mountain rap, so that's always
Yes.
available for people.
Oh,
who
then
need that.
Zippity Doo Dah. You're losing that too, bro.
Splish splash.
Z- 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 z-